Advance and be recognized, everyone, and welcome to the Sitrep podcast, your forward operations base for all things military and historical wargaming. I am your host, Risky Jim, and today we're back to finish up our Desert Storm wargame, depicting part of 1st U.S. Marine Corps Division Strive at El Jabr in the Gulf War of 1991. The system we're using is a modified version of 7 Days to the River Rhine by Great Escape Games. I say modified because we had to make some changes to account for the Gulf War being so wildly one-sided. I've changed some of the unit values and costs, updated some of the morale levels, and added in some special rules and victory conditions to make what was such a drastically unfair battle into what's hopefully a fun and fair wargaming experience for both players. The battle in hand is part of 1st Marine Division Strive past the second belt of the Iraqi defenses, where we saw spearheads of Task Force Ripper and Shepard turn to the northwest with El Jabr Air Base off to their left and the El Burkan oil fields off to their right. We went over all of the background and context of this battle in part 1 of this video. There's a link to part 1 in the description of this video. Check it out if you're interested in reviewing this material. But for now, suffice it to say that as the spearhead of 1st Marine Division is making this penetration and pivot, they were struck by a disorganized and half-hearted counteroffensive mounted by elements of the Iraqi 5th Mechanized and 3rd Armored Divisions. So we have Glenn playing the Marines and John playing the Iraqis. The Marine objective is to traverse the entire 8-foot table in just 5 turns, and get all of their units off the far end of that table in the typical sort of breakthrough type scenario. The Marines' advantage in firepower is just staggering. They've got off-board artillery, they've got Super Cobra gunships, they've got Harrier airstrikes. Marine tanks are drilling through Iraqi armor like rotten apples, and Marine autocannons and infantry are tearing up Iraqi infantry units as well. Several Iraqi units have already surrendered to the Marines that are already low morale, well past broken. Also, the Iraqis are handicapped by several crippling special rules designed specifically for this scenario. All of their morale ratings have been reduced. Every one of their units started off the game with at least 1 morale token already assessed against them. This is to reflect the 5 weeks of Marine artillery and airstrikes. Also, all of their tanks are only firing H-class ammunition. This is especially important when they're shooting against Marine M60A1 tanks with ERA reactive armor panels. However, perhaps in a bit of a rush to cross the table, the Marines didn't really suppress very much of the Iraqi defense before beginning their advance. Thus, Marine losses have been startlingly heavy, way higher than we saw historically. We've already lost one of the M60 battle tanks, an AAV, and an LAV-25. That right there ensures that the Marines cannot win this game. They were supposed to cross the table and achieve their objective while losing no more than 5 scenario points to the Iraqi player. Now they've lost 3 for the M60, 1 for the LAV, and 1 for the AAV, so already this game is at best a draw. The Iraqis, however, are basically dead on their feet and perilously close to their breakpoint. So this game comes down to, can the Marines break the Iraqi force and win the game without losing any more units? If the Marines can do that, this game shakes out as a draw. However, if the Marines lose any more units, they're going to lose this game, even as, of course, they're going to win the battle. So let's get back to the footage and see if the Marines can steal a draw here, or if this goes down as a technical mission failure in our recreation of Desert Storm. Near the end of turn 1, and we see where the Marines are advancing across the desert. We see where some Iraqi infantry have surrendered and are moving towards the Marines in surrender. And again, here are those 3 destroyed Marine vehicles that I was talking about. We've got the disabled M60 battle tank, the LAV-25, and that AAV-7 you see in the back there. That right there, again, gives the Iraqi player 5 scenario victory points, which makes this game at best a draw for the Marines. I should also note very quickly that we are activating 3 units per activation token, just because this game is so large and we want to hustle up the turn sequence a little bit so we're not here all day. Some more Marine LAVs have moved forward. You see that one LAV with the improved tow launcher boom on it. He won't be able to fire this activation because anti-tank guided weapons cannot move and fire in the same activation. But the other LAV next to him has fired his 25mm autocannon, already racked up some additional morale tokens against that Iraqi infantry in the open and that little crossroads there. We're going to see if Glenn can convert his hit into some additional damage. And with a 6, he does, and that's going to be 4 tokens and the end of that infantry unit. Alright, now the Marines are calling in their AH-1W Super Cobra attack helicopter gunship. There's a number of different weapon systems available on this platform. We're going to see which one Glenn wants to fire, but for now, he's definitely going to engage these two Type 59-2 tanks back here. So Glenn has selected his 2 shots of Hellfire anti-tank guided missiles. They're a 3 up to hit. They're very accurate weapons. You don't normally miss with these. That's a hit with a 9 and another hit with a 9. Awesome. So it's going to be 2 hits on 2 different targets. Now he has to penetrate. They have a penetration of 12, H-class, but the Iraqis don't have special armor, so he basically has to roll above a 2. That's definitely a kill, and holy crap, that is a deflection off the armor. So that Type 59 is definitely smoked. We're going to go ahead and knock his turret off. And that one only takes an additional morale token, because apparently that is the luckiest tank crew in the Iraqi army. On to the Iraqi activations, and these Type 59-2s are going to go ahead and activate. That one's burning. That guy failed his activation check, so it'll just be this tank taking his shot. His target is going to be that AAV. I hope you can barely see there at the very top center of your screen. So he's actually got one of the most dangerous Iraqi tank guns on the table. He does carry a first-generation laser rangefinder. So he starts off with a 5+, making a 6+ because of his previous morale token. And some intervening terrain, we're going to make it a 7+. We do allow 2 shots for a unit in this game when they're not moving. Looks like they both missed though. Into turn 2, the Marines are on the advance again. That center M60 is going to try and hit this Type 59-2 that just missed the AAV a second ago. Alright, he only gets to shoot once because he is on the move. So Glenn's going to roll to hit, and with an 8, that's going to be an easy hit. Now to penetrate, he gets to add 11 to this roll. This will be an easy penetration. Oof, not with a 1 though. Wow, okay, however, that guy already had 3 activation tokens on him. Now he's going to have a 4th, so that tank crew is broken and will now surrender anyway. The Iraqis are reacting to that. This tank crew just opened fire and missed the AAV-7 twice. This one failed his activation check, and this guy has no line of sight. But as part of his reaction, he can still maneuver and maybe get a shot later. Alright, the Marine M60 tank there on the left, so that's going to be near the bottom of your screen, is going to go ahead and put an HE frag shell into this airport building and knock out some of this Iraqi infantry. So it's going to be a 4+ to hit. It's going to be only 1d10 because it's more than 12 inches away. So he actually misses with another 1. So yeah, Glenn's dice are all of a sudden really doing bad for him. The AAV that is next to those 2 tanks is going to open fire, both with his 50 cal and his 40mm Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher. So he does score 1 hit with the 50 cal. I'm pointing at the 2d10 column. It should be the 1d10 column. So he tries to convert. He fails to convert. And now he's going to fire with the Mark 19. We do give them 2 different weapons. So he has now scored 2 additional morale tokens against that infantry squad. Actually, that is going to be the Iraqi command squad. So now that he's broken and surrendered, yeah, long story short, take your first shot. That's going to have some effects on Iraqi performance. Okay, the Marines are working on a little bit of housekeeping here. We see this Marine rifle squad here by the Humvee. They were deployed behind this hedge here by the mosque, and what they did was they put some of that long-range motivating Marine marksmanship training on this airport building and forced another Iraqi squad to surrender. And then they headed over to the Humvee, where hopefully some of them are going to be able to get a ride. The Iraqis all the while are trying to react. We see that last surviving T-62 there at the top of your screen. He's got a beat of 4 to react, but with a 1, he doesn't make it. The Marines take some exception to that, so this M60 battle tank that you see here has moved forward to engage this last T-62 that tried to react against the Marines' advance. Glenn goes to roll to hit, and misses with a 1. Wow. And long story short, take your second shot. Marine dice really have shit the bed about halfway through the game here. Alright, now that tank did move this activation, so he only got to shoot once and missed. And yeah, we're sort of wrapping up Marine turn 2 here with some of their last activations. We see Glenn here moving some of his Humvees forward. And with some 50 cals here, we do have some house rules for how 50 cals work. We give them a very, very slight armor penetration value. But what he's going to engage at the moment right now looks like some additional infantry far off in some other buildings. So he's going to have 2 chances out of 7, because he's got 2 Humvees there. Alright, so that's 2 hits so far. Outstanding. He's going to try and convert those hits with D6s. No, and no. Okay, because the Iraqis are in a building. So it's going to be 2 more hits on them, and that Iraqi unit is toast. And that brings us to the end of Marine Turn 2. You can see here where they're making some pretty good progress further up the table. They are now bypassing the first wrecked Iraqi tanks. They're scooping up the first Iraqi prisoners. Watch out for that BTR, he's still active. And we have a lot more Iraqi armor here in the air base that might start going for flank shots against advancing Marine units. Alright, so like I said, we're now into the Iraqi activations on turn 2. This T-55 just took a shot on this LAV with the improved tow launcher boom on top. Sometimes it's called the hammerhead vehicle. And yeah, he had 2 chances at a 7, and that 8 is going to be a hit. So that's a 100mm rifle tank gun against the very thin armor of an LAV. John is going to go ahead and roll to penetrate there. He rolls a maximum result on penetration. That is that LAV beyond toast. And that's very bad news for the Marines because, long story short, take your 3rd shot. That decides that the Marines have officially lost this game. So again, some quick reminders on Iraqi victory conditions. They didn't have to do very much. All they had to do was inflict 6 scenario victory points against the Marines. They scored 1 when they knocked out this LAV tow carrier here. They scored another one when they knocked out this AAV back there. The LAV-25 was worth another one, and the Marine M60 tank with a lucky shot, that was worth 3. So yeah, 3 plus 3 equals 6. That's going to give the Iraqis a success in this game. I won't really say victory because, yeah, they're going to get curb stomped. They're already at 53 breakpoints out of 60, so you can see that the Marines are really just 2 vehicles away from still being able to call this game a draw. But, yeah, asymmetrical victory conditions, the Marines had a tall mountain to climb, and they didn't quite make it. As we move into turn 3, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and finish this game just for playtesting purposes and to see how it would have shaken out. But we can see here the crippling deficit that the Iraqis are up against when it comes to activation tokens. Not only do the Iraqis not have that many to begin with, but by now they have lost well over 50% of their force and their command team as well. The Marines are much more intact, and of course you can see they have a lot more activation tokens with which they can break the rest of the Iraqi force and get their force off the table. Okay, so on turn 3, the Marines are going to start activating their units. Again, we are activating 3 units per activation token, only because this game was so large. It was well over 1,000 points per side. So with that first blue check, I'm going to activate those 2 LAVs and that Humvee that you see there running along that wall. And with that activation, I'm going to activate those 2 M60 tanks and that AAV that's been running right alongside. So let's go ahead and break these Iraqis. To start with, this lead Marine M60 battle tank is going to fire twice from this position without moving. Again, in this scenario, we're allowing units that don't move to fire twice in that activation. First, he's going to engage that T-55, and if he kills that, he's going to go after that Type 59-2 there. So he's got a 4 to hit, obscure target, but thermal sights. 5 is going to be a hit. Awesome. Does he penetrate? Yes, he does with an 8. That was an easy kill. Next, he shifts fire to that Type 59. That's a hit. And pow, that's another penetration. 2 more Iraqi tanks are smoked. Let's go ahead and get some smoke markers on. There goes the T-55. Thanks very much for playing, sir. And now that Type 59 is also burning. Alright, that right there gets us to 59 out of 60. We are really close to breaking the Iraqis. Continuing this activation, because again, we're activating 3 units per activation token, that second M60 tank has driven up behind his wingman there, and he's going to try and draw a bead on this stubborn T-62 that just won't get the hint and go away. Alright, the problem is the Marine tank had to move, which means the Iraqi may get a chance to react and interrupt his fire. So he's already got 1 morale token against him, therefore the T-62 needs a 4-up on a D6 to interrupt the Marine's action. And with a 3, he fails. Alright, so the T-62 will not interrupt. That's going to be it for him. And the Marine will go ahead and open fire. And with a 2, oh, he misses. Again, Marine dice aren't always that great this game. So that's going to be it for his activation. Third unit in this activation is going to be this AAV. And he's going to go ahead and shoot at that distant building in the airbase complex and try and knock out some of the infantry that's embedded in there. So he's got a 50 caliber machine gun and a 40mm automatic grenade launcher in there. He's going to go ahead and fire both. And he has hit with one and missed with the other. So now he's going to try and convert. But again, the Iraqis are in a building, so he fails to convert. That's only going to be one additional morale token against the Iraqis. Okay, the Marines are finally going to bring in their Harrier airstrike and hopefully break the Iraqis with that. It's a little bit of a risky move since the Iraqis do have some air defense units on the table. Not really accurate from a historical perspective after the 5-week bombing campaign, but I didn't want to have a scenario where the Marines had all this air support and the Iraqis were completely exposed to it. So we saw the Shilka a moment ago. The Iraqis also have an SA-7 Manpads team in place. First we have to see whether or not these units will react in time. They both need the standard 3+ to react on a D6, make that a 4+ with their morale tokens. Alright, so the Shilka fails with the 3. Now the SA-7 team also needs a 4-up, and looks like they're going to fail with a 2. That means that Harrier airstrike is coming in clean. Stand by! We got a Harrier coming in hot. Alright, so let's take a look at our options here for the AV-8. We have Mavericks, we have Hydra rocket pods. Alright, we're going to go for it. We're going to fire both of our Maverick strikes here. That is going to be a 3+ to hit, and it's a 12H to penetrate. Again, the H doesn't really matter in this scenario when shooting at the Iraqis because none of them have any kind of special armor. So first, we're going to go ahead and put a missile into the Shilka, and boom, that's going to be a hit. And penetration's going to be kind of a joke because, again, it's a Maverick versus a Shilka's armor. But even that bad roll of 3 gets it done because it's the Maverick's 12 plus 3 is 15 versus the Shilka's front armor of 10. Yeah, that Shilka is out of gas. We'll knock off his turret to indicate he's knocked out, and we'll get a burn token on him shortly. So here comes the Harrier's second Maverick strike against another Iraqi tank. Ooh, with 1, that's going to be a miss. But I think the Iraqi force is still broken. Next, the Marines are calling in some of their offboard artillery. There are our house rules for how we do artillery, and the Marines have chosen that aiming point because in our house rules, the area of effect is 4 inches, and they're trying to catch both of those Iraqi squads. So the first thing we have to roll is a 4-up to see if the artillery mission is available this turn. And with a 7, yes it is. Okay, now we have to roll to hit the aiming point. That's going to be a 7-up, and the Marines are going to go ahead and roll that. And with a 10, they hit it. Awesome. Right, so the artillery mission is available, and it is hit where it was plotted. So we can skip the miss mechanics. It affects everything within 4 inches. So automatically, any unit within 4 inches takes a morale token for being under artillery fire. Now we check for the effects of the actual blast and the shrapnel. We're calling this an AT gun over 7, so we give 2 D10s. Alright, that's going to be 2 hits there. We're going to see if they can convert against the first Iraqi infantry team. Alright, does not convert. Alright, so the first infantry team takes 2 additional hits. Now the second team, that's going to be 2 more hits, and it does not convert. So each of them is going to take 2 more hits. That's a grand total of 3, but again, they each started with 1. That means that they each have 4. They're both gone. Alright, so taking another look at the Iraqi breakpoints, we have the number of units that have been lost. We have the total number of breakpoints that they were worth when they were taken off the table. Our grand total comes to 67. The Iraqis are broken. Continuing turn 3, we're just going to go ahead and start moving Marine units. The battle's over, the Iraqis are broken, they're no longer shooting, but I just want to make sure that the Marines have enough movement and activations to get all their units off the end of the table by the end of turn 5. Because again, per the victory conditions, any Marine unit that doesn't make it off the table in the allotted time counts for more Iraqi victory points. So I just want to make sure that's not the case. A quick point, notice that that Marine rifle squad requires 2 Humvees to carry it. Marine rifle squads are 13 men, 3 fire teams of 4 plus a squad leader. So we increased their values and also changed a little bit of their transport rules for this scenario. So this first Humvee is going to move forward. The second Humvee is also going to move forward, and between the 2 of them, they are carrying 13 Marines in that slightly damaged rifle squad. And to finish up this activation, because again, we're doing 3 units per activation, I'm going to move up this ambulance unit and maybe see if he can remove some morale tokens. Next, the Marines are going to try to reactivate these two LAVs and this Humvee here. But again, reactivate. They have previously activated. You see that blue check there. So I technically have to roll for it. I need to beat a 1. I beat it easily with a 4, so no worries there. Although, to be fair, I really should have had the Marines roll for all 3 units. This is what I was making John do when he was playing the Iraqis. So I apologize for that. A little bit of a rules mistake there. But that notwithstanding, they have reactivated, and now that LAV is going to take its full double movement, along with the infantry it's carrying. Again, this second LAV as well. Again, it takes 2 LAVs to carry 1 full Marine squad of 13 men. And yeah, there we go with that unit as well. But as we can see here, by the end of turn 3, the Marines really weren't short on time. They've got plenty of activations, and their movement rate is high enough where they can cross the table pretty quickly once they stop taking large amounts of Iraqi gunfire. Beginning turn 4, the Marines are just going to start dropping activation tokens. Nobody's opposing them at this point, and it's a brand new turn, so there's no rolling for reactivations yet. At the moment, the biggest challenge is just keeping the Marines organized and making sure we're keeping straight which 3 units are being activated by each of these activation tokens. So with the activation tokens now allocated, the Marines are going to start measuring their movement. Again, at this point, I'm just measuring the table. I want to make sure that the Marines had enough time in this scenario to get all their units off the table. Real quick note, notice that Humvee that's carrying a Marine unit by itself, that's a Dragon anti-tank team. It's smaller than a rifle squad, so we're not cheating there. And now we're going to start to reactivate some Marine units, and boom, the first Marine units are now off the table. Awesome. Now I just have to make sure that the rest of these units make it off as well. Another of the American units we see advancing is that ambulance unit in the center of the Marine battle group. So we have some house rules for how ambulance units work. Pretty much it's a mobile version of the battle group morale test. They can roll a d6, and any unit within 12 inches gets to remove a morale token. So with a 6, they clearly succeed on removing the morale token from the Marine command group. Somebody got a field dressing on the Sergeant Major. Maybe this will keep him from bitching for a few minutes. Okay, so with that little bit of pressing business taken care of, the Marines are going to try to reactivate these 2 surviving M60 battle tanks. They've already activated once. They need to beat a 1 to reactivate. With a 6, they make it easily. So pretty straightforward. They're going to take another double movement order. That's going to get them off the table quite easily, as we've just measured. So now it's not just the spearhead, it's the heavy Marine armor as well. Alright, then this LAV-25 is also going to make it off the table, as well as the Humvee and the command team that he was carrying as well. Good to go. So by the end of turn 5, all Marine units easily made it off the table. To be honest, most of them made it off by the end of turn 4. They had plenty of time, but they took too many losses, so sadly we have to write this up as an Iraqi game victory. So there we are, folks. Although the Marines have accomplished their mission, they've tabled the Iraqis and they've gotten all their forces off the table in the allocated time. They just lost too many units. With a Marine tank down, 2 LAVs and an AAV, they wound up losing 6 scenario points to the Iraqis, thus forcing me to conclude this game as, chesty puller forgive me, an Iraqi victory. This is something we often see in historical scenarios where one side was just so superior to the other. Sure, their victories were amazing, but in order to win the recreation wargame, you have to match or exceed those amazing victories, and a lot of times that's just really hard to do. And once again, this was Glenn's first time with the 7 days to the River Rhine system. He may have underestimated the firepower of his Marine units, causing him perhaps to maybe rush his advance a little bit before sufficiently suppressing the Iraqi defenses. But this game was actually a hell of a lot closer than it may have looked. If you guys remember, at the very end of part 1, we had those 2 heartbreaking misses with Glenn's tow missiles. If those missiles had hit, and they really should have, they only needed a 3+ to hit. Reviewing the numbers, that would have broken the Iraqi force right there. Indeed, this almost turned into a 1-part video. But that's where we're going to leave it for now, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Please remember to hit that notification bell. Also, please consider joining the Sitrep Podcast Discord. There is an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord in the description of this video. Join our community, see what everybody's up to, and best of all, show us what's happening on your hobby table. But for now, this is Risky Jim with the Sitrep Podcast. We are rounds complete for another episode, and as always, Tango Mike for watching.